Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're talking about how to fish a weightless pit boss. Yes, sir, a weightless crawl. And I guess it really doesn't really matter what it is. It could be a pit boss, it could be a Googan, bambito bug. It doesn't really matter what it is. I talked a lot about the tequila sunrise. The power worm gets biggins after biggins all day long. We're gonna go talk about how to fish a weightless pit boss. I just dropped a video. If you haven't gone and seen it, go check it out. I talk about, the benefits of fishing a pit boss, especially in the fall time. It's high protein. Bass are looking to get fat for the winter time. It's a great bait to throw. I like to go weightless, try to keep it as natural as possible. It just gets it done all day long, biggins after biggins. But there's a couple differences of how to fish it between a weightless power worm and a Berkeley pit boss, or again, any type of creature crawl. Again, bambito bug. I know Crush City has them. Pretty much everybody has them, but we'll just go through it. Now, for me, what I like to do, I really don't like to cast, especially in the fall time. I really like to go deep. Try to keep it structured. As you can see, this pond has a bunch of cattails and stuff, so I'm gonna fish around cattails. And if I have to go deep, it's a little bit of a different technique, and we'll go through that. But for the most part, I like to keep it natural, as I talked about before. Anything like the natural crawfish, some orange, some reds in there. I like to try to keep it as natural as possible in the fall. So, the great thing about a pit boss, again, is the castability is awesome, the fall rate's awesome, and you definitely, because you're not using weight, you definitely want to try to fish it down to the bottom as best as possible. So, we'll go out here, we'll cast out. We'll cast it out there. Again, I'm watching my line. I'm always watching my line. Again, you want to keep it at the bottom. So it's just a small, I'm not doing a lot of movement. I don't want it to move a lot. The more movement you have, the higher it's going to come out of that, come up out of the water column. Again, because you're not using weight, there's nothing to bring it back down. And, it just kind of, I like to just like tap it a little bit. A couple taps, just let it sit. Bring in that slack, just tap it. Especially around, if you have some stick-ups, some logs, even cattails, the more you can keep it down towards the bottom. Oh, I have one. I have one. That's how you do it. That's a big bass. That's a big bass. That's why you use Berkeley pit boss. All day long, son. All day long. That's what I was just telling you. Just keep it slow. Tap, tap, tap. Look at that. Look at that. Pit boss. You can't work it fast. Babe barely had him hooked. That's how you do it. But that's how you get it done. Especially with this water clarity. But nice and slow. Boom, getting it done, son. Pit boss. That's how you do it. That's how you do it all day long. Boom. Coming out of that grass. That's why I love the Berkeley pit boss. Whoo, it's exciting. Tap, 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 boom, getting it done. That's the key to fishing a pit boss, is really just slowing it down. Again, it's fall time, it should be transitioned up. I know they're transitioned up. And it's just kind of taking your time and kind of just letting it, let it sink. Tap, 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 and let it sink. And it falls. Again, it's not deep by the shore. Just let it fall, sit there, and bass will come up and just grab it. Getting it done. I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but all that grass that came up out of there, it just sits in those grass. But at least I'm fishing grass. All right, we'll cast over here, and I'm just tapping that. And because I have cattails, I typically like to keep that as close down to my rod tip down to the bottom as close as much as possible. And just kind of tap it a little bit. And you should be able to feel that the pit boss, and you just want to tap it and let it sit. Tap, let it sit. And that's all I'm doing, is just tap, sit, tap, sit. I don't do more than 3 taps. I think that just has a tendency, because again, it has no weight to it, it has a tendency to pop it out of that, bring it up out of the water column, and that's not what I'm looking for. Sits out there, just cast it. Again, I typically, especially, in the fall time, I'm making very precision cast. And you know, I'm casting it towards any type of structure, areas I know bass are going to be in. And I like to just let it sit out there. Like I said, 5-6 seconds. Kind of bring in that slack, make sure it's towards the bottom. And then I'll just start to tap it. Just tap, 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 tap. And if you can't, you should be able to feel that lure when you're tapping it. And that's all you want to do. And sometimes I'll just let it sit there. Especially the bass are finicky. A lot of times I'll just let it sit. If I'm going out deep and I'm fishing out deep, it's a little bit different. Depends on how deep the pond is, or depends on how section of the lake that you're fishing. You know, you might have to wait. You might have to wait quite a bit for it to get down to the bottom. You know, I try to watch my line, but sometimes even that isn't really it really won't tell you. So a lot of it is just kind of just feel, know how deep the pond is. And I would say about every 2 seconds will get you about a foot for the pit boss. You know, if you want to see how deep or how the sink rate, kind of toss it out by shore, like by right where you're fishing. Just kind of watch it sink, and you can kind of start to see how fast it sinks. But all I'm doing when I'm out deep, a lot of times you can't even feel the taps when you're tapping it because you have so much line out. And again, you don't have weight on it. When I'm out deep, I have a tendency to tap it a little bit more, maybe like 4 or 5 times. Then I'll just let it sit. Again, sometimes it's just that tap, tap, and just let it sit there. Sometimes you gotta let it sit there like 5-10 seconds, and then bring that slack in and give it just a small little tap. Just like boom, 1 tap. That was just a 1 tap. But out deep is a lot harder going weightless because it's just the way how much line you have out. You'll have a tendency to bring that pit boss up in the water column instead of staying it down at the bottom. And that's a lot harder. You know, a great thing to do too, especially if you're fishing someplace that's clear, just cast it a few feet in front of you, and just kind of tap it just to see the action of that pit boss. And that will help you. That'll help you kind of get your retrieval or your taps down. Again, you don't want to over tap it because you'll be boom, boom, boom. It's already gone. It's like boom, 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 boom. Remember, it is finesse. It is weightless, so you really have to slow it down. That's the key to it. Slow, 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 and slow. And you'll know if a bass has it, trust me. You know, it'll pick it up and go. Like that one picked it up and started going out towards the middle. Starts going out towards the middle of the pond. Really, really for me, finesse, weightless. You know I talk a lot about weightless, but it's really picking your spots that you want to fish. I won't fish a whole pond with a Berkeley pit boss or even a tequila sunrise. It's almost impossible. You know, so just pick your spots, pick your areas, you know, and then go from there. Especially if you use like a chatterbait or like a crankbait and you can find a school of them, you can always go back with a finesse and you get it done. Like here's an example I'll give you here. You know, you can see down this line, row of cattails. I'm not gonna fish out this deep. I'm just gonna cast and I'm gonna work it right down this line and I'll just see if there's a bass there. Here's where I think the pit boss really excels. In a situation like this, it's like a little back cove. I don't know if you can see, I'll try to pan over. It's like a little back cove. And a lot of times, use those loud baits when they hit that water. Sorry, having a hard time standing. When it hits that water, it makes a lot of noise. A lot of times that spooks bass. But you get something like with a pit boss that has no weight, when it hits that water, it doesn't spook them as much. And it gives you an opportunity to catch bass in that area. It's really hard to catch bass in here, this little pocket, because again, if I throw a 1/2 ounce chatterbait, it's gonna make a ton of noise when it hits that water. A lot of times the bass will just move or they just won't even pay attention. You go weightless, Berkeley pit boss, it just gets it done. So, kind of show you, you know, really, ultimately all I'm doing is I'm gonna make a couple casts, but just this little pocket over here. Set up my Berkeley Power, my Pit Boss. I'm just gonna make a cast coming straight down and straight in, and we'll see what happens. But this is where you have to kind of start to really make sure you're paying attention and kind of really paying attention to the area. The key to a weightless pit boss, or even like I said, any other creature crawl, is really slow, slow, slow. I like to fish around structure, even if it's ledges, cattails, logs, whatever it is, you know, even small little pockets like this, you know, something that could, you know, throwing a loud bait in there's probably going to spook the bass. If I could throw something like this that's weightless, I have a better chance of catching bass. High pressure ponds, you know, public ponds, going weightless. You know, again, I pick my spots. I don't fish the whole pond going weightless. That would be very, very hard. But, you know, again, keep the rod tip down, tap, 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 you know, bring that, you know, tap, tap, tap. I go to my right, tap, 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 bring the slack in, bring my rod tip back to my left and back to center if I have a bass. You know, if it hits it, I'm already set to set that hook and boom, biggin after biggin all day long. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tips. Try it out. If you haven't used a Berkeley Pit Boss weightless, go try it out. It has an awesome sink rate. You can cast it with a bait cast without a problem. And it just gets it done, especially in the fall time. Like I said, it's high protein for the bass. It's an awesome lure to be using all the way up and through post spawn. It's a great lure to use. Catches biggins after biggins, as you've seen.